Hi everyone, Cherie Keller here in Nampa, Idaho, and this is my um, Unit 1 discussion post. I'm excited to share my thoughts with you. I've actually found the material this week to be very interesting, and I've learned a lot already in this 1 week that we've had together in this class. The first assignment that we had in this post was to define public relations. And the thing that I kept coming back to as I studied the material was that public relations is the art of storytelling. I feel like public relations is the art of an organization telling its story through open and honest communication with its public in an effort to create a positive image or a positive impression with its public. I have to say that I really enjoyed the documentary about the Bernays era. I was absolutely floored by the things that I learned there and could see how public relations could have a negative connotation with people because if you think about at least the way that was presented, it sounds like public relations was designed to manipulate the public, to control the public, to control their buying habits or their political persuasion, and really that can undermine what I think the role of public relations is today, which is to establish positive relationships. I did find a couple of articles to help me understand the definition of spin. Of course, we are familiar with the concept of spin. If you watch the news, they talk about spin doctors in the political world. But I found an article called The Spin Cycle, How Research is Used by Policy Debates, the Case of Charter Schools. And also I found an article called The Connection Between Public Relations and Competitive Advantage. The bottom line that I took away from reading those is that spin is the act of maybe not telling the whole story. If you go back to my definition of public relations is storytelling based on open and honest communication. Spin would then be an effort to control the parts of the story that are made public and maybe those parts of the story that are not made public. So in other words, it's not telling the whole story. And that's not, in my view, as ethical of an approach because that goes back to the Bernays era, which is that you're not really putting the needs of the public first. You're really just putting your own selfish agenda before the needs of the general public. And so I feel like that's why it is counterproductive to public relation goals, which would be to establish positive relationships with the public. The next question was, what is the difference between proactive public relations and reactive? And proactive to me is anticipating what the concerns of the public would be, anticipating potential problems, and communicating those out in front of an event or a crisis situation. Reactive, of course, would be once there has been maybe some bad press, some bad publicity, maybe a crisis. Now we're reacting. Now we're communicating with our public and trying to respond to something negative that has happened, as opposed to proactively establishing those positive relationships. I think most organizations and people can have positive public relations if they just put the needs of the public first. And then lastly, talking about examples of public relations and marketing in my area, I had the opportunity to work with BYU Idaho in creating a partnership with the Nampa School District where we placed around 30 student teachers per semester in the Nampa School District. And if you can imagine, that actually can present a public relations issue because especially if you look at the secondary level, you could have a secondary student with up to 3 student teachers, and perhaps a parent or other teachers or faculty might not agree with that model, and that could be something that, in order for that to be successful, you would have to really create positive relations with the faculty and the parents. Something that we did was we did send out, information letters to all of the students who would be affected by this, and explained the model and tried to tell the story of our university and tell the story of our model of co-teaching and how it was great. And there was all kinds of research shown how student achievement would actually go up with this teaching model. But something that I think we may have failed to do would be to actually have investigated if there were any downsides. There may have been downsides, but I don't know that we actively pursued finding out what those are and maybe addressing and getting out ahead of that before they may have presented themselves in the program. So in the future, I think that what I would do in any situation, regardless of the organization I worked for, whether I'm a teacher, administrator, working in corporation, is to just create honest and open communication and solid relationships with my public, which would be the foundation for any activities or accomplishments that we may be trying to get done. I hope you found this informative and look forward to hearing what you have to say. Goodbye.